opponent, Gabriel Nichols, is on Obzon Company.
This looks to be a rough matchup for the 5-color beatdown deck.
You know, I agree. At the same time, my confidence here is so low. I don't know what this. I haven't seen this deck in action before.
Yeah, we'll find out.
So Gabriel Nichols on Obzon, he wins the die roll and will be on the play with Noble Hierarch. Certainly, I guess against the Obzon Company deck, all the interaction that Orrmons has is 4 copies of Path to Exile and 2 copies of Dromoka's Command. So that's all he's going to be able to break up the combo with.
Dromoka's Command, not always the greatest card at interacting with the creature that you need to kill. You know, you can force a fight, but then the Obzon Company deck, it could have its own Fatal Push, or it could just reset pretty easily. It's a pretty inefficient way to go about it.
Kitchen Finks turn 2 by Nichols. Sends him back up to 19. Now, the other form of interaction Kale actually has is he has 4 copies of, or 3 copies main deck of Spell Queller. Just about any gold creature playable in this list.
Yeah, Spell Queller is certainly a nice one. That's an upgrade for this deck. When you have to play lands like Pillar of the Parans, Ancient Ziggurat, it really limits the kind of spells that you can put in your deck. The fact that you have a gold creature that can counter spells is very significant.
Kitchen Finks will swing in for 4, but Kale meets it with a Path to Exile. Looking at Nichols' hand, we have Voice of Resurgence, Eternal Witness, and Viscera Seer. So getting that Kitchen Finks path certainly sets him back when it comes to assembling the combo. He doesn't have a Court of Calling or Collected Company just yet. What he does have is a strong mana advantage. Wall of Roots into Voice of Resurgence. Will untap with 5 or maybe 6 land sources on his next turn. And Kale, we see a Kitchen Finks. No real life gain as he had to use 2 mana confluences to cast it.
Still at 20, though. The Obzon Company, it is a combo deck, but it has the ability to aggro out your opponents. It can take the sort of mid-range role.
And I think that'll be interesting in this matchup. If Gabriel is on a more traditional damage-based plan, I don't know how well he's going to do against Siege Rhino, Mantis Rider, Falcon Wrath Aristocrat. Those creatures are very good at fair magic.
Yeah, they're mighty large. The best way that the company deck has to apply pressure comes with these Voice of Resurgence tokens, and one's on the way. That thing can get a lot bigger than a Siege Rhino.
Yeah, so Gabriel swung with Voice of Resurgence, and it traded with Kitchen Finks. And so now he will get a Star token. And then Eternal Witness, bringing back Voice of Resurgence. So, yeah, fair game plan seems just fine for Nichols.
And that Voice token is already a 5/5.
Right, able to tangle with a Siege Rhino at this point. So, you know, there is Siege Rhino. Nicholas down to 16.
And the Mana Confluence continues to only kind of hurt Kale.
Yeah, all his creatures do gain life here, up to 23. Now, these Star tokens, though, they're going to be bigger than most of the creatures in Kale's deck. It looks like they're about to be protected by Spellskite. Using this Viscera Seer that Gabriel's casting, he certainly has the ability to make more of them by sacking Voice of Resurgence. But he may just be able to get here with traditional aggro.
Seer, Hierarch, Spellskite.
Yeah.
Got an 8/8 now and some Exalted happening. He's attacking for 10.
Yeah, 8 creatures, 2 Exalted triggers. Now, the good news for Kale is going to be that cards, if he can draw cards like Falcon Wrath Aristocrat and Mantis Rider, he can run a strategy of block and fly over. But that hit is going to... That swing will hurt mightily as he drops down to 13.
He needs to start doing things more than cast 1 creature a turn, though.
Well, that's kind of what his deck does. They're really good creatures by being able to have by having this mana base. He's playing really the most efficient creatures available in Modern. You know, Siege Rhino, it's hard to do better than that at 4 if you're just looking for a card on rate.
This is the kind of deck that frequently you can take Standard by surprise if you just go up and down the curve, find a mana base that no one else has figured out, and can cast the best spell on every turn. It'll be pretty good. Modern just has a little bit too much synergy for me to have a high degree of confidence in a strategy like this. In particular, we have a creature match mirror. A creature mirror match, rather. Both players are casting Noble Hierarch. One of them has a combo potential. One of them has more value creatures, and the other one's just trying to cast creatures at a reasonable rates. I'm just way more comfortable with the high synergy deck.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Orrmons' deck also does have 4 copies of Voice of Resurgence, but the fact that Nicholas gets to have a similar strength on the curve and then gets to have a combo finish, that's pretty good.
Right.
2 Hierarchs for Orrmons. They will exalt his Rhino up to a 6-power creature. Nicholas will block.
Well, on the topic of high synergy, he hasn't blocked yet. The Voice of Resurgence sacrificed to Viscera Seer. In comes the token. That thing's bigger than the Siege Rhino.
Oh, so this isn't a block. He's doing this before blocks.
Exactly.
Kale's going to attempt a Dromoka's command. Now, there is a Spellskite, however. Kale will try to say Viscera Seer and Siege Rhino will fight. But yeah, this is all fine for Nicholas. He has these 2 8/8s.
The Dromoka's command, that would pump the Rhino up to a 7. Killing the Seer would shrink the Elemental to a 7/7 versus a 7/8. But if the fight resolves and he lets the Seer die, then the Rhino would only have 7 toughness. You could at least trade there.
Yeah, so the modes are put a 1/1 counter on Siege Rhino, have Siege Rhino fight Viscera Seer. That's right, the Rhino's exalted to a 6. Is right now exalted to a 6/7. It's going to be a 7/8 with the 1/1 counter. So you're right, it actually will win the fight here. So what Nicholas did, he redirected the 1/1 counter to Spellskite. And then sacks Viscera Seer. So now the Rhino is just a 6/7 and the Elemental token still a 7/7, so this fight still goes in Nicholas's favor.
That Spellskite card's pretty good.
Yeah, this being on the board, maybe a misstep here on Orrmons' side means he loses the Siege Rhino. And yeah, the 6/7 will lose the fight to the 7/7. And we're looking at some mighty good options then for Nicholas. He drew a copy of Melira. But just the pair of Elemental tokens should be enough.
More creatures means more power. And Kale's in all kinds of trouble.
Plays his 2/2. Looks like we're going to see these pair of Elemental tokens. They're both now 8/8s. They are free to attack. Now it looks like he's going to go ahead. That Spellskite was made a 1/5 last turn, so it actually is safe to attack right now.
Yeah, Spellskite does not have Defender. It is a horror, not a wall.
So swing with a 1/5 and a pair of 8/8s. This will force a block from Kale. It will be 2 chump blocks on the Elementals. He goes to 10.
And as we advance into this stage of the game, Kale's deck just doesn't have really any way to claw out of this.
No, there's no like Damnation, which he could cast. He's going to go for another Siege Rhino.
He's just treading water with that. That's a chump blocker.
Siege Rhino birds out of cards. And yeah, that should just about do it. Scavenging Ooze the pickup for Nicholas, but the Elemental tokens by themselves should be enough.
Yeah, on the surface, Mantis Rider, Siege Rhino, these are singular cards that are more exciting than, say, Wall of Roots. But Modern is very much about combining, making a 60-card strategy.
Well, I mean, there's the mana of this game, right? Gabriel had a turn 1 mana accelerant, then had another mana accelerant from his opponent when Orrmons cast Path to Exile. Sure, maybe Kale's cards are better, but he didn't have as much mana to work with.
Yeah, he's only casting 1 spell a turn. Look at how many creatures that Gabriel controls, and look at how many creatures Kale controls. And Gabriel hasn't even drawn the marquee card in his deck. He has cast 0 collected companies in this game.
Right, he's playing this very fair. It's just been Voice of Resurgence, sacks, just get some tokens and play some creatures. By casting Scavenging Ooze, that's the 9th creature for Gabriel Nicholas. So now those elemental tokens, both 9/9s. He's going to swing, and this, I like this. The 2 elementals, Eternal Witness, Malira, and Spellskite. So because he's swinging all these extra creatures, it actually forces blocks from Kale.
The 9/9, 1/9/9, and any other creature outside of the Spellskite would be lethal in combination.
So he'd have to block both elementals, lose his team. He's dead on the next turn. Kale's going to scoop them up. So game 1 goes to Gabriel Nicholas with Abzan Company. Going to sideboarding now. So if in Nicholas's spot, it's not entirely clear what his opponent's on. It's some sort of value creature-oriented deck. He has a lot of 1-ofs here. Which ones do you think he'll see him go for?
All right, so we'll go down the list. We have 2 Path to Exile, 2 Abrupt Decay, 2 Descended Mindbender, a Gideon Ally as Zendikar, a Kataki War's Wage, a Sigarda, a Host of Herons, a Burnt Inforged Tender, a Farika, God of Affliction, a Sim Collector, an Orzhov Pontiff, a Kasali Pride Mage, and an Anguish Unmaking. I think by and large, Gabriel's deck is just doing something that is well positioned in this matchup. He has to be concerned about potentially getting cheesed by some flying creature. So there's an argument for looking at cards like Path to Exile, Abrupt Decay, assuming that he's sniffed out Mantis Riders out of Kale's deck.
Yeah, so he didn't actually see Mantis Rider or Falconwrath Aristocrat, but just once he saw Siege Rhino, that's probably enough to make him board in these Path to Exiles.
Yeah, yes and no.
On Kale Orrmons' side, he has 2 Kasali Pride Mage, 3 Anafenza the Foremost, 3 Tide Hollow Sculler, 2 Stidden Collector, 2 Is It Staticaster, 2 Bounding Krasis, and a Reflector Mage. It is 15 gold creatures.
So the upgrades on this side are actually far more significant. Anafenza the Foremost is a great way to shut off Kitchen Finks combo, get those creatures exiled, no persisting shenanigans.
Yeah, no Voice of Resurgence tokens. That one's big.
Right. Tide Hollow Sculler is reasonable. Get a look at the hand, maybe pluck a collected company out of there, or even disrupt the combo. Is Staticaster is pretty reasonable as well. Kill the Noble Hierarchs. There's a decent amount of 1 toughness stuff happening on the other side. And I'm pretty big on Reflector Mage too, just to slow the tempo of the game. You know, you're playing a slower deck, you're casting more expensive cards. Reflector Mage to slow the other deck down makes sense.
Yeah, the upside to his deck is he gets to play the best cards. In the format, he needs to make sure they are the right cards. And there is a lot to like in this sideboard.
Yep.
All right, so the players are going to get ready for game number 2. Now, in 2 weeks, we have the next event from Star City Games. It is our next Grand Prix. It's Grand Prix Orlando, and that's going to be taking place, just 2 weeks from now. It is a Kaladesh Aether Revolt limited event.
On March 24th through the 26th, make plans to be part of Magic the Gathering history when StarCityGames.com proudly presents Grand Prix Orlando. Play in the Kaladesh Aether Revolt limited format main event to compete for thousands of dollars in prizes and a spot on the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour. Select the 3-day Infinite Challenge package to compete in all challenge events for one low price, while also walking away with the exclusive Scrapper Champion playmat. All Friday challenges are also Grand Prix trials. Come out early and compete for buys in the main event and more chances to claim a Scrapper Champion playmat. Prefer 100-card formats? Register for the Ultimate Commander package to play in 4 Commander on-demand events and take home a Commander vs. Playmat and Ultimate Guard Boulder deck case. And don't forget to come say hello to Grand Prix Orlando's many special guests, including cosplayer Vanessa Martin and an artist alley full of fan favorites, headlined by guest of honor Vulcan Baga. Be part of Magic the Gathering history. Register for Grand Prix Orlando today.
So in 2 weeks, going to be Grand Prix Orlando. Now, with these 5-color aggro decks, the idea that you're going to play a very efficient creature on every turn of the game. One of the things that I'm interested here is I'm surprised his deck isn't playing the card Aether Vial.
Well, one thing about the composition of his deck, he is a 4 Noble Hierarch, 4 Birds of Paradise deck, and the reason being a lot of his spells that matter, they cost 3 and 4. Vial is very good when you're trying to get in 1 and 2 mana creatures and going as far as 3. When you're kind of starting at 3 and going to 4, Vial isn't doing you too many favors.
It's just not going to make creatures in a timely fashion.
Right.
So this idea of just efficient low drop creatures, we are actually seeing it be I'm not that surprised he's doing well this weekend. Look at like Todd Stevens' deck. He's at 9-1 playing a green-white company deck. It's not that different of an idea. You know, I'm going to play a very good 2, a very good 3. Now what Todd Stevens' deck and a lot of these other players are doing is instead of having Siege Rhinos and Falkenrath Aristocrats, they load up on 3s like Knight of the Reliquary, and then they just collect a company into them.
And that is one thing that's a little discouraging about Kale's build. He's playing these really good creatures on raids, and he is not himself casting Collected Company, which is frequently one of the better cards in these strategies.
Well, yeah, on 4 mana, you have to pick, I guess, between casting Company and casting Siege Rhino.
I suppose you can't cast Collected Company with the lands that Kale is playing. You know, Pillar of the Parans, Ancient Ziggurat.
Sure,
they don't lend themselves to that kind of card.
Yeah, there is some deck building restriction. His sideboard, as mentioned, is 15 creatures. They're all multicolored, so he is painted into that corner a bit. Now, the upside is he really just can cast any of these on whatever turn he'd like.
This is a deck that it makes sense to kind of keep in your back pocket. Every time that we get a new, good, efficient gold creature, this deck does get a little bit better. And when we saw Kale's sideboard, he has a lot of great options there.
Yeah, and I expect that, you know, and more to that point, we are going to continue to get more good, as Magic's been going, good, efficient gold creatures seems to be something we get pretty regularly.
Right, yeah, creatures are largely the name of the game now. Spell-based combo has been something that the player base, by and large, is generally dissatisfied with. So we get just more creatures, and it's great. It's how you really build the brand. It's just more intuitive.
Yeah, we even, you know, recently we've gotten Grim Flayer in the last year. You know, that's another excellent gold card.
Yep.
Even things like Rogue Refiner in Standard. There's, you know, a few years ago that card would have been just off the charts good.
Yeah, that card's pretty bonkers.
All right, both players keeping on 7. We'll go. It is Ancient Ziggurat starting from Kale Orrmons, and Nicholas going to have to read that one. Really powerful mana fixing as long as all you want to do is play creatures.
Right.
And Reflecting Pool from Kale. That works very well with Ziggurat because Reflecting Pool taps for any color that your other lands could make, which nowadays a Ziggurat means Reflecting Pool just does it all.
Yep. If you weren't playing during Lorwyn Scattered, you probably haven't seen a ton of this card.
It's great with Vivid Lands.
Right. If your mana-producing land has some kind of restriction, the Reflecting Pool does not gain the restriction, only gains the ability to tap for mana of the same color.
So Kale's lands have been super impressive. What's been a little less impressive has been his creature curve. On the first 2 turns, he doesn't have any play. Now, starting on turn 3, we could see some great cards out of him, though. Mantis Rider available. We see in the board, he had Anafenza.
Yep. Turn 3 Anafenza doesn't take much beyond that to want to keep a hand out of Kale's deck.
And remember, Orrmons' deck is 4 Noble Hierarch, 4 Birds of Paradise. These last 2 games have been not typical of his deck.
Yeah, he's got 8 1-mana creature effects. He's playing 4 Voice of Resurgence, a couple Selfless Spirits.
Voice of Resurgence is the first play that's on Gabriel's side. So Orrmons will start. Which 3-drop does he have? It is Mantis Rider. He will hit his opponent down to 14.
And on the play, Mantis Rider is a pretty efficient card. Gabriel's already down to 14.
Kitchen Finks will bring him back up to 16. Did not offer the swing of Voice of Resurgence. So it's interesting to see if he would make that play, maybe just try to upgrade it into a Star. He does not. He'll take another hit off Mantis Rider. No second Mantis Rider or anything like that. You go back over to Orrmons. He does not have another land as he makes Anafenza. Also of note, his Gemstone Mine is down to 1 counter now.
Yeah, and with no action on turn 1 or 2, that could matter a lot.
Well, Anafenza, though, look at this board. That card is just great right here.
Yeah, well, not only is it extremely good against both creatures that Gabriel controls,
right.
It also is going to make the Mantis... Well, actually, never mind. Tapped creature. It can't
Tapped
make
creature, yeah. This is
not really a combo with Mantis Rider.
But still, I mean, Kitchen Finks and Voice of Resurgence, yeah, all right. Anafenza's pretty good there. So Gabriel getting a Chord of Calling for 3.
Smells like a Fiend Hunter.
Oh, yeah, it could be that, or Big Game Hunter looks like the removal spell creature of choice. Yeah, and he'll get that. It will hunt down Anafenza.
That card's been picking up in popularity since Death Shadow has taken off in the format.
Yeah, I haven't seen this card much. We used to see it in these company decks back when Eldrazi Winter was happening. The idea is that it was very good against reality smashers.
Yeah, so you got to cast big Game Hunter and then lose to the other 3 creatures.
Yeah, I mean, here's the 4th land from Kale, Pillar of the Orrmons. It's another one that can tap for any mana as long as you just want to play multicolored creature spells. A swing for 3 will keep the damage going, though. Gabriel down to 9. Path to Exile on Voice of Resurgence. Kale doing that main phase correctly.
And that certainly suggests that he has more than one piece of interaction. Getting the voice out of there, so when he, say, goes for a Path to Exile on the Kitchen Finks, if Gabriel sets up a combo, Gabriel won't get a voice token to try to race him.
Remember, if he wants to cast another Path, he will have to use up that last mining counter. Both Ziggurat and Pillar of the Orrmons cannot cast Path to Exile.
Yep. Now that he has a 4th land, though, that's a little safer.
So after the Path, he just says go. Go back to Nicholas. He's at 9. That's 3 hits off Mantis Rider. But he does have Kitchen Finks and a Court of Calling in hand. Looks like 2 Kitchen Finks and Court of Calling. So he'll be able to stay alive for a while here. Start by attacking with his own Finks. Kale not interested in that trade at all.
Yeah, the Mantis Riders. Kale doesn't have that much left. That's really his entire plan for the game. And he's also was still at 20 prior to that attack, so getting in front would be extremely aggressive.
Another Finks will bring Nicholas back up to 10. And another one will make it 12.
11, Horizon Canopy.
3 copies of Finks in play now, though. And it looks like on end step, we're going to see Kale go for some sort of play here. It is an Izzet Staticaster shooting down Big Game Hunter.
That'll show him.
Getting some revenge for Anafenza. Now, what this does mean is that these Kitchen Finks, when they persist back, Izzet Staticaster will have a pretty good response to them.
Yep. Unfortunately, Kale not exactly loaded up on ways to get the Kitchen Finks to die in the first place.
Yeah, well, his Staticaster is kind of insurance against the combo. I mean, it can get a potential Viscera Seer. If Gabriel tries to combo using Anafenza instead of Malira, it can shoot a Kitchen Finks.
Certainly.
Orrmons swings with Mantis Rider and just says go. Nicholas back down to 8.
Kale can produce a 4th land and a Siege Rhino. Things start to look really good for him, though he's still in a pretty solid spot as things stand. Now, though, with Gabriel controlling so many Kitchen Finks, his clock is much faster than it was a turn ago.
Yeah, well, Gabriel's last cards are Spellskite and Court of Calling. So the Spellskite can redirect the Staticaster hits. Now, he's got to worry about Mantis Rider. And keep in mind, Gabriel also has a copy of Gavany Township. So he's got a lot going on, but he's running out of resources. Plays Skite, and he's going to swing for 9. So Kale takes all of it. And I do like this from Nicholas, just this racing aspect. Now 8 life points on both sides of the board. End step, Bounding Krasis here from Kale Orrmons. I don't think that's one that Gabriel was expecting.
That certainly accelerates the clock here.
Yeah, tap Spellskite. Okay. And Nicholas, he has to think, does he want to cast this chord in response?
Well, just taking 6 on this turn and being dead to the Mantis Rider on the following turn is not too inviting.
Well, if that's the play, he might have lethal, right? He's got Orrmons down to 8.
That's true.
So the tap happens. We go back to Orrmons. Another Mantis Rider. Swings with the team. This is going to force that Court of Calling.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Gabriel has to cord for a 2-drop, right? If he gets a 1-drop, Staticaster can shoot it.
Right.
He can't cast. He doesn't have triple green there. It's Swamp and a Gavany Township. So we're going to stop there. Yeah, that's not a legal cast.
Yeah, he'll need to take 1 damage one way or the other.
All right. So it looks like he does have to tap Canopy. Gets Viscera Seer. So the idea is that if he needs to, he could sack a bunch of Kitchen Finks to not die this turn. But I don't. This is a really bad spot for Gabriel. So Staticaster is going to shoot Kitchen Finks, shoot Viscera Seer. In response, Gabriel will persist back 1 Finks, 2 Finks.
Red Finks.
Yeah.
Blue Finks.
They both persist back. Nicholas up to 11. Now remember, this Gavany Township in play for Gabriel can actually reset all of the Kitchen Finks.
Right.
And with Staticaster tapped, he doesn't have to worry about all of them getting shot down.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going up to 11 on these triggers, I'm interested to see whether or not Nicholas is going to redirect here with Spellskite as well.
Yeah, well, he has 2 parts of his combo here, right? Now that he has Seer plus Kitchen Finks,
Right.
1 still left over.
So he's resolving the Scries off the Viscera Seer. Right, so we're still in attacks here. He hasn't picked blockers yet. Staticaster is attempting to shoot down Viscera Seer. Right, does Gabriel need any more cards, right? So he can sacrifice all the Kitchen Finks, go up to 13, redirect the Staticaster to Spellskite, take all the damage, but not die, untap, Gavany Township to pump all his Kitchen Finks, do it again next turn.
Yeah. He gets to force some blocks by these Mantis Riders.
Both cards scry to the bottom.
He has the mana to activate Township plus cast one of the 2 mana combo cards.
So he's actually then, in response to the shoot, sacks the Viscera Seer to itself. So I think missing the Spellskite redirect, this means that he has a lot less control right now. You see he takes the damage, the 9 points of attack, he goes down to 2.
Must have decided that he was satisfied with just lethal Kitchen Finks as a plan. Which does gain him some life when the Mantis Riders get in the way as well.
Yeah, I mean, this line's probably just worse than sacking the 3rd Finks and then taking all and then redirecting. But it still could be enough. He's got a sizable swing back here. He gets to reset all these Kitchen Finks.
Well, given the 3 Kitchen Finks, it seems very likely that he's able to win the game with the materials that he already has. He gets to save on 2 life here as well. I don't know. I'm not ready to say worse, I suppose is all I'm saying.
Well, he's going to want to reset these Finks before that Staticaster untaps.
Right, absolutely.
Draws Orzhov Pontiff.
Yeah, that one not terribly exciting on this board.
Yeah, Pontiff's not particularly good against this 5-color deck. I mean, I guess it does have a lot of birds and Noble Hierarch, but not in any of the games we've seen so far.
Right. It's fair to assume that they're in the deck.
They just have to be.
Yeah.
Lion's got to figure out how to get by these Mantis Riders. At the very least, he needs to force Kale to trade some of them away.
And an attack here forces 1 block.
Orzhov Pontiff is going to be the play. This way he gets to cast it and the Pride Mage as opposed to just using Township. He's going to swing. And we'll see which mode he chose, +1s or -1s. Either way, these Kitchen Finks some of them need to be blocked.
Right.
Spellskite swing 2, so I believe it's pumping his own team. Spellskite, so you have a 1/5, a 4/3, and a pair of 3/2s. So overall, he has a swing of 11 damage. So Kale has to block 4 of it.
Well, given that Gabriel did not use the Township, now Kale can block one of the persistent Kitchen Finks. Gabriel won't gain any life on this iteration.
If he blocks one of them with a 1/1 counter, and then he blocks the Spellskite, right? And that, and he found it too.
Right.
Then he'll take 7, go to 1.
And fly over for lethal.
Yes. As long as it doesn't block the 4/3, then it persists back me up, and yeah,
Right.
Kale finds the correct block. So he takes 4 and 3, goes to 1. Still has that Mantis Rider alive. The one that's on the Spellskite lives. The Spellskite was a 1/5.
Yep.
And I believe this should do it. Yeah, we're going to go to a third game here between Orrmons and Nicholas. Mantis Rider showing some strength here in the matchup. Nicholas does not really have a way to interact with it. He was almost able to race it with a team of Kitchen Finks there. But even then, that's a really roundabout way of trying to answer the card.
Right.
So we'll
Yeah, Mantis Rider really shines against these non-lightning bolt creature decks. Just the ability to fly over, and there's really not much in the ways to remove it.
Yeah. Now, there are some advantages here, right? Because Kale Orrmons has to play cards like Pillar of the Perins and Ancient Ziggurat, the non-lightning bolt dynamic happens on both sides. So on game 3, if Nicholas plays turn 1 Birds of Paradise, it's going to live.
Right.
And that's really big.
You can't cast it as a static caster until at least the second turn of the game.
Yeah, I suppose now that he has seen static casters, though, Gabriel does have to be concerned. That's very good against a lot of parts of his deck.
Right, and there's not too much he can do in the sideboard to address that, at least the first activation.
All right, we'll have a third game between the two in just a sec. Gabriel will be back on the play. Now, over Star City Games, we have Star City Games Game Night. That's our game night. It is game night somewhere. All across the country, stores running Star City Games tournaments for exclusive pins and tokens as prizes. So for March, we're giving away the token of Pig Through Time. These are all from our Creature Collection parodies of some of your favorite Magic cards. Next month, make sure to make it out for the Fleece Keeper. That's on the 0/1 Sheep token, also parody of the card from Visions, Mirage Block.
I want to say Visions, but I'm probably wrong.
All right, we have that one. And now, if you get signed up in time, we'll get you the May one. This one, first time we've gotten to see it on camera here, it is the Imperious Perfect, this Cat Elf Warrior token. That one actually, if we get signed up, we can get you signed up in time for May and for that promotion.
Boo.
We just don't like that. Okay, apparently Peacekeeper's from Weatherlight, so it's still the right block.
Get that card off the screen right meow.
Right. Oh, wow. Wow. So you can find out, get registered or find a tournament near you at starcitygames.com/game night.
I was playing a lot of Magic during Lorwyn Block, and I had a friend that sleeved up Imperious Perfect more than he probably should have. And the thing about it is he played it a lot but never learned the name. I heard him call the card Impervious Prefect more than once.
I like, that means it's indestructible. It's the Impervious Prefect. It sounds way cooler that way.
It does.
I mean, what is Imperious even a word?
Well, like, perfect as a noun is, like, pretty tilting.
Yeah, so I mean, the way it's actually written right, perfect's not a noun. Imperious is probably just a made-up word. Impervious Prefect. Those are two solid words.
Whereas the card was actually vulnerable to every removal spell in the format.
Viscera Seer on the turn 1 for Gabriel. Kale, for the first time, we're going to see his deck with a mana creature. It's a Noble Hierarch.
Couldn't pepper smoke it.
Noble Hierarch.
All right, I'll get off it. I'll get off this chain.
Mantis Rider, turn 2 from Kale Orrmons.
And this is actually looking really powerful.
Noble Hierarch and a Mantis Rider? Ugh. I mean, this is the strength of the deck, right? What do you have to do to your mana to curve Noble Hierarch into Mantis Rider? Like, that's not easy.
No.
But when it happens, I mean, look, Gabriel's down to 13 already. That's huge. And now if Kale does something, swing for 4, followed up with Siege Rhino, that seems like, I like that out of his deck.
Oh yeah, the 4-power flyer into the 4/5 lightning helix.
Right, that's, I mean, on rate, right? He played a 4/4 flying haste vigilance on turn 2. That's really good.
Yep.
It's almost like he cast Heart of Quran. A land and a pass for Gabriel. Now, he did shock down to 13.
He's up to something.
Yeah. It seems like he might be something like a quarter. He's going to try to go for a fast combo here.
Yeah, already has a Viscera Seer, a Cord for 2, into a Kitchen Finks. Forces action.
Yeah, Kale is wise to it, though. Plays a land, a Pillar of the Perons, and just passes.
It currently has a Mana Confluence and a Noble Hierarch to potentially cast an interactive spell.
All right, Gabriel, end of step, Cords for 2, getting Anafen's Akin Tree Spirit. I think we're going to see a Kitchen Finks. That's the 3-part combo.
Kale could also have a Static Caster at this juncture.
That'd be very good. Though if he has a Static Caster, he doesn't need to do it just yet, because then he could still die just to land another Seer Kitchen Finks.
Correct. If he had Static Caster Path to Exile, forcing that action would be pretty strong.
Go back over to Gabriel Nicholas. I don't know that he has the Finks. He has a copy of Collected Company and Eternal Witness. A swing from Kasali Pride Mage for 3 will work here. Kale down to 14. Just says go. I don't know if he wants to path on end step. Maybe not. We'll see.
It would be pretty aggressive.
Yeah, I was just going to draw a card. Smart play. But now you have to worry, right? Mantis Rider, Siege Rhino. Boom. 7.
Well, if Orrmons taps out to cast Siege Rhino, Nicholas just hopes to company into the combo.
Right. Well, he'd have to have a 4th land, and then he has 5 mana, so he could hope path Rhino as possible.
Yep. Of course, you force Gabriel's hand, so you need to have Siege Rhino plus land path.
Yeah, it's pretty specific. Well, here's 4th land, Mana Confluence. That mana base just does everything. Barring Rhino, though, I guess he could have Falconwrath Aristocrat here as well.
Sure.
That would be good enough to have a lethal swing.
Yeah, full 4 copies of that card in the deck as well.
Also, remember, he plays 3 copies of Spell Queller, so there's a lot to like about Orrmons' possible plays here.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what he chooses. 2 mana. Rethinks it. Looks like he has a Voice of Resurgence in hand. And here we go for 4. I think we might be seeing a Vampire. There we go. Falconwrath Aristocrat. All right, this is 7 power in the air. This forces action.
This is a nice looking cube deck.
I don't draft Pillar of the Parns cube, okay? I don't go deep enough to draft that. Collected Company from Gabriel Nicholas. He's going to need a life gain spell. And 1/5/6, he has Viscera Seer, Birds of Paradise. Well, I suppose Birds will keep him alive.
Birds is a life gain spell.
Yeah, he gets 2 bolster triggers.
Assuming that Kale does not have Path to Exile.
Right, he's dead to path. If there's a path right now, then we're done. So Gabriel's going to bolster twice onto Viscera Seer and Birds.
I believe a trample check is what's happening now.
Does not have trample. Noble Hierarch, though, is a human.
Factual.
At this point, you're not worried about Path to Exile. Your opponent certainly doesn't have one. So a block. Aristocrat will eat the Noble Hierarch to get a 1/1 counter and survive combat. Gabriel takes 3 more, drops down to 3. Well, there's no Path to Exile, so now can Gabriel find a Kitchen Finks? He's going to go ahead and block and then sack to scry. He's got a few chances at it.
Well, I think he might have an Eternal Witness in his hand, which just gets him cord and he gets the combo.
Yeah, and at this point, there's really just no fear of Path. If Kale had it, it would have already happened.
Yep.
Scries to the top. Yeah, so he's counting it up as well. So he needs 3 mana for Witness and then 6 mana plus creatures for Finks. You see him counting it out, but there might be a green mana issue here. 1, 2, he has 3 sources, so right, plays Witness, gets it back. He should have 6. I think he has enough to do it.
So the question is if he can do it without taking 3 damage. One of his lands is Horizon Canopy. If his land is a shock land, that's too much damage. Uh-oh. Looks like an Overgrown Tomb.
Well, hold on here. I don't know if he doesn't need it, does he? Draws Birds of Paradise. So 3 mana for Eternal Witness. Tap 5 creatures and the 1 land.
Okay, right. Yep.
Court of Calling. I believe it's there. It's very close. But Gabriel Nicholas should. We believe there's a line there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there shouldn't be any difference between going to 2 and staying at 3.
Heads up on him to not sacrifice any more of those creatures, though. He'll need actually all of them to combo here.
Yep.
So Eternal Witness. He does pass the... I was wondering about green mana. Thankfully, he can convoke...
Yeah, Pride Mage, Witness, both are green.
Both are green, so they can reduce it by a green mana.
Convoke a little bit different from Improvise. You can actually impact the colored mana aspect of the spell.
Sure, and this works as well. Birds of Paradise, then Convoke, tapping 3 green creatures and 3 other creatures. So his whole team's tapped here, but that'll get Kitchen Finks. Then he'll start to combo. Double checking. Kale, you didn't have the path, right? That's what you has to hope here.
Do you still not have the path?
just want to be sure. All the creatures that are not Kitchen Finks are tapped right now.
Yes.
Not that that's going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
So, how the combo here works is you sacrifice Kitchen Finks. It persists back. Then Anafenza Kin's it bolsters onto it to make it a 3-2. So it's a 3-2 again, and you just repeat this. Each time you do it, you scry 1 and gain 2 life. So Gabriel will gain as much life as he has, as many life points as he wants in increments of 2, and he can scry 1 as many times as he wants.
Presumably going to gain more than 6 life.
Right, we put our symbol of infinity. You can't actually just say infinite, you just say a really, really large number.
Mm-hmm. Card he scried to the top was Melira. Once you have this combo plus Melira, you can no longer put -1/-1 counters on the Finks. You start bolstering infinitely because the Anafenza just racks up more counters.
That is time in round 11.
Voice Resurgence, and a go from Kale.
Then proceed with the 5 additional turns. Simply crash. Once again, SCG open players. That is
and yeah, so draws Melira, makes that play. So as you mentioned here, now you do the same interaction, but the Kitchen Finks, well, hold on, Kale's going to spell quell it. Oh, okay, that's gone. Gabriel still can scry 1 as many times as he wants. He can just
and he also has Horizon Canopy, so he can just go ahead and draw something. If he has Path to Exile in his deck, he could just Path the Spell Queller right now.
And no reason not to shock for Overgrown Tomb.
Yeah, and because he has the Overgrown Tomb, that also opens up Abrupt Decay.
So he says he'll scry 1 as many times as he wants. And to see how he's going to do this is he can somewhat sort his deck any way he wants, as long as he can cut his deck to any card.
Right.
Then crack Horizon Canopy to draw a card. He'll draw Fatal Push, and that's going to go ahead and do it. So once you have the Melira in play, then you sacrifice the Kitchen Finks 1,000 times, and you don't let any of the bolster triggers resolve. You keep with it on the stack, doing it over and over. And then once it's finally in play, then you say, okay, and then you just bolster all your guys. They're all super huge, and then you swing for a win. So Gabriel Nicholas in 3 is going to defeat Kale Orrmons.